What's up, everybody? So today is the day. We're gonna go over things that I don't like about my Nissan 370Z. Overall though, I really do like it. It's a pretty awesome car. Not perfect, no car is gonna be perfect in every single situation. So there are a few things that I have found that I'm not a huge fan of with the car. Some of them I thought I was gonna dislike, but turns out I don't, and others I don't like. So let's get into this video. So to start off, 6 months ago, I test drove a 370Z for the first time. I really just had an opportunity to test one out for a review video. And at that time, I only spent a couple hours with the car. Later that day when I was editing the video, I was looking back, thinking about the 370, thinking that it was a cool car, and what if I actually ended up buying one sometime in the future. So at that point, I kind of was looking over the car, thinking of every video I could possibly make, and this video is one of them. So at that moment, there were a few things that I had already put on the list of things I wasn't gonna like. So we'll go ahead and show you the few things that I had on my list to start. Under my first impressions, I was gonna say that these buttons here seem very bulky, kind of cheap plastic feeling. I thought that the roughness on the front was too rough and they just seemed kind of cheap. Of course, I was used to the Genesis Coupe, so these are completely different. The next thing I was gonna say is there's no convenient place to put my phone and wallet. In my Genesis, I could put both my phone and my wallet right in the double cup holder. This only has one, so my phone doesn't even fit in there. So I was gonna say, when you get in the car, you just have to throw everything in the passenger seat, which isn't really that convenient because whenever you're driving, they just slide over and you end up losing them. I was also gonna say that the headrests are not the greatest. I was gonna say a little bit too far back and kind of flimsy, not as comfortable as some other cars. And then the fourth thing that was gonna be on my list is the rearward visibility. I was gonna say that it's pretty horrible looking out the rear, especially over your right shoulder. And then when you look over your left shoulder, you basically can't really see anything. The little windows there are also kind of useless. So to start off with the first thing, the buttons on the steering wheel, they're actually not as bad as I thought. I thought they were pretty cheap feeling just because I was used to the small ones on the Genesis. But if you look carefully, you can see that the edges are beveled and this rough feeling on the front isn't as coarse as I initially thought. So those are not on the list anymore. They're perfectly fine. They do their function. They're not cheap at all. They're just normal buttons. Moving on to the second thing, which was no convenient place to put my phone and my wallet. It actually took me about 3 weeks to realize this, but the pockets in the door are perfect to put my phone and my wallet. Everything fits in there perfectly. So whenever I get into the vehicle, I just easily put everything right there and then hop on in, and they're at a convenient spot. And then when I get out, same thing, just get out and grab them. Because I really was putting them in the passenger seat every time I'd hop in, and if I made a sharp turn, they would fall over in here, and then that would be a pain in the butt to have to find later on. And I didn't really feel like using the center console because it's a little bit of a hassle, not as convenient as just the cup holder was with the Genesis, but these pockets are the perfect size. And then as far as rearward visibility goes, it isn't the greatest, I will say, but it's not as horrible as I initially thought. Looking over your right shoulder, there is a pretty big blind spot where the C-pillar is. You really can't see that window at all with the headrest, so it is kind of useless. But I realized when you adjust your mirror to the proper setting, it actually is not that bad. So rather than having my head in the center of the car, making it to where I can kind of see the car in the mirror, I turn my head over to here and then make it to where I can barely see the car. And that makes it to where even if a car is not in my visibility over here or there and they're in the blind spot, from my normal position I can see them in my mirror. So that turned out to not be that big of a deal, and it's actually not that bad. However, over your left shoulder, it is actually pretty bad. When you look over, you really can't see anything. A car would be right about there, but obviously the B-pillar's in the way. But same thing with the mirror. Rather than adjusting it where my head is, making it to where I can just see the car, I turned my head over to about here to where you can just see the car. So now at the normal driving position, any car that is in my blind spot is right in my mirror, and actually by the time they get out of my center mirror, they're already in that mirror. So visibility, you just got to adjust your mirrors properly and it's not that bad. So moving on to a few things that actually do bug me about the car. We mentioned the headrest earlier, and that is on the real list of things I don't like. When you're normally driving, your head is in obviously a normal position, but when you're on a long journey or just coming home from work a little tired, I like putting my head back on the headrest to just be a little more comfortable, but they are a little bit farther back than I'm used to. In my Genesis Coupe, the headrest actually had a more rounded front end, and you could click them in 3 positions forward. These, they move up and down, but not really much. They move up a couple inches and then they hit the ceiling. But when you are in them, your head is a little bit farther back than what's normally comfortable. It's slightly awkward to sit like this. Not really the biggest of deals, but comparing it with the Genesis, it was really comfortable. I could just put my head barely back and be comfortably resting on it on a long journey, while this one, it's a little not as comfortable. So now driving in the vehicle, there are two other things about the car that I'm not a huge fan of, and one of them is the road noise. This isn't the quietest of cars when cruising. I'm going about 50 miles an hour right now, and you can hear the road a little bit. I'm sure the camera can hear it too. It's not horrible. Some roads are a little bit better than others. The road I'm on right now is a little coarse, not the newest, so you do hear the road noise. Some roads that are brand new are perfectly quiet. You don't hear anything in the car, but I have noticed that quite a few roads that I use on a daily basis, you can hear the road noise a little bit. But most of the time I either have music on or the windows down, and that completely cancels out the road noise, but when you are just cruising, you do hear it. And then next up on the list of things I don't really like in the car is the cruise control. Now it works like any normal car. So right now I'm going to set it on 50 miles an hour. I am going slightly downhill, but I've noticed that in the car it seems to fluctuate almost 4 miles an hour, which for a normal passenger car you really shouldn't see that. With our Tacoma, when we would tow the dirt bikes on a trailer, it would fluctuate maybe 5 miles an hour going uphill. But in a lighter weight sports car, you shouldn't expect it to do that. So I have noticed when I do set this car on 50, going up and down some certain roads, going downhill, it'll only speed up a little bit, but I've noticed once it starts going uphill, a lot of times it will go down maybe 4 miles an hour. And it shouldn't do that. I've never owned a 6-speed manual vehicle before, so maybe there's something different with that, but I know in my automatic 5-speed Genesis Coupe, it was spot on within a mile an hour no matter what road I was on. I don't really remember in my manual TC from way back in the day, but I feel like the cruise control should be a little bit sharper. Now for a few honorable mention things that aren't the greatest about the car, not saying they're horrible, but if you are looking to buy a car, just know that this is something you have. The clutch is a little weird to get used to. It is definitely the hardest clutch I've ever driven. It's just the first and second gear change in slow speeds is a little weird. So as I pull out on this road in first gear, I'll show you how it is a little bit weird. When I first give it some gas, it can shake a little bit. So I've noticed it takes some getting used to. I'm not the only one. I know I've seen other people talk about how the clutch engagement is a little weird. It just seems to, you really have to be careful with how much gas you're giving it and how slowly you're letting off the clutch. So for those of you looking to buy a Z, know that the clutch is going to take some getting used to. I've had the car about 3 months now or so, and sometimes first and second gear are still a little bit sketchy. So it's a little weird getting used to, but not horrible of course, but it is something to know. And then the last thing on the list, talking about downfalls with a 370Z, and I'm only saying this because of Jeremy Clarkson. I'm pretty sure he has said this in a few car reviews on some Top Gear episodes, but I did notice that the sun visor is really big, and when you put it completely straight down, you have absolutely no visibility. You literally can't see anything. I know that has nothing to do with anything, but it's just something funny to point out. And just to show that in a POV angle, when you put it down, yeah, you have no visibility. Let's kind of look out. Most cars that I've seen, we'll put that back up, kind of stop here when you put it straight down, and of course you would never actually drive it like that. You'd more like that, but just thought I would point that out. Well, there you go, everybody. Those are things I don't like about the 370Z, and as you can tell from the list of things that I actually don't like about it, that's not really anything to worry about. The car, in my opinion, is really good. I like the performance aspects, I like the driving, I like the quality, I like pretty much everything about it. So for those to be the things I don't like about it, a little bit on the road noise, loudness side, not the quietest, cruise control could be better, and the headrest could be a little more comfortable. If that's all I can honestly come up with, that must mean it's a pretty good car, in my opinion at least. Those of you who do own these may have other things on your list, but for me, that's all I don't like about the car, and that's really it. So I hope you all enjoyed the video of me going over things I hate about the car. Honestly, I don't really hate anything about the car. That's just what people title these videos, so I'll go ahead and title it the same thing. But that's all I could come up with. I like the car a lot. I'm excited for all the new things I'm going to do with it, some road trips, some track events coming very shortly. That'll be a lot of fun. And then I'll make some other videos going over things that I love about the car and then the weird things about the car. But yeah, that is it for what I don't like about the car. For those of you looking to buy one of these, that's all the downfalls I could really come up with it. I think it has a lot of good things about it and only a little bit of downfalls. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Be sure to click that subscribe button down below. like us on Facebook, and then follow us on Instagram for tons of photos with the 370Z. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next video.